when you started your business? How long have you been in business for? And like, what was your first step when you found out about like, we're closing down San Antonio, we're closing down, I mean, you're in San Marcos, so kind of like the whole COVID-19 situation.
Yeah. Well, my name is Lika Torline. I am the founder and licensed esthetician behind skincare business In the Weeds Natural Skincare. We handcraft different products like obviously skincare, but we also do aromatherapeutic products as well. And we've been in business for about 7 years, 7 years this past February. So started bootstrapping from, the beginning. I started my business on $150, which um, it's kind of funny to look back and think about it, but at the same time, when you're desperate, it's amazing the things that you can do. So that being said, and I know I put it on my launch essay recording the other day, is just that I kind of feel that amazing things can happen when you have to think outside the box. And when I started my business, I was definitely one of the situations where I had to kind of be creative and what was I going to do? I literally was sitting at a Fast Eddie's in McAllen with little striking up conversations with people, um, sitting at a bar, nursing this one drink for 2 hours. The bartenders like already knew like I was going to be sitting there forever, but I would kind of strike up conversations with people that didn't have the best looking skin, just so that I could offer them a free sample and see if they would get back in touch with me. And that's how I started it. You get creative. And that's kind of what we've had to do with the COVID-19 too. So a lot of businesses were shut down after, I think it was the fourth declaration that Mayor Nirenberg sent out, but events were the first thing to go. And it was kind of when we heard Fiesta was canceled, because I was like, they're not going to cancel Fiesta, because of course South by Southwest got canceled. My brother's in Austin, so he told me that. And I was like, they're not going to cancel Fiesta. And when they did, I was like, oh, this is serious. So, yeah, one of my big kind of monthly events, SoFlo was canceled. And that's kind of was the first, like, this is going to be like a thing. Like, this is a big deal. And I have to admit that the first weekend of it, when I started seeing, my Wimberley get canceled and SoFlos get canceled and Fiesta got canceled, this is thousands of dollars of income that we used to not only sustain the business, but to pay the employees. So I have to say that, yeah, the first weekend I had a little bit of a, cry sesh because I was just stressed out. I was like, what am I going to do? And then, of course, I was just so worried about my employees because I have a really great team and they know I care about them so much that I was really stressed out about what can I do so that we can still keep this ball rolling. And so one of the things, well, luckily, the farmers market at the quarry is one of the markets that we're still participating in because farmers markets are considered essential. And it's kind of like open air grocery shopping, and they've spaced out the tents. It's actually a lot safer than, I guess going to H-E-B's because they make it a point to only have like one person at every single booth. And then all the booths are spaced out too. So that's one of the things. But we hadn't offered free shipping before. We'll do like a sale, like free shipping for like a day or two, just because shipping prices have gone up. They went up right before this started too, and we've been trying to keep our flat rate the same, our flat rate shipping price, but we were still taking a hit even with that flat rate. But I was like, everyone's offering free shipping and delivery, and just having employees driving around on the clock is a liability. So I didn't really think that that was that great of an idea just for us. But them doing, free shipping and things like that has really been good. It's just you kind of have to take the hit with it too, because I actually had this order. It drove me crazy. 3 weeks ago, somebody ordered like in Michigan or Montana, one lip balm. And it was, that lip balm $6.50. The shipping was like $7.80. So I lost $1.50 and still had to take the time to pack this order. And I was just angry with my shipping tape or whatever. But that doesn't happen that often. But I have to say that the shipping or the the orders have been coming in pretty consistently, and even some of my customers are getting creative by reaching out to their clients by sending gift boxes and things like that. Been doing a lot more lives and kind of putting my face out there more, letting people know we're still in business. That's really important because a lot of people, you know, uh, assume that businesses are shutting down because a lot of them, even restaurants, have changed their hours. They're closing by like 8 p.m., even on the weekends, I've noticed. So just keeping that constant contact. I'm also having the girls, I happen to just have all female team, but so I call them the girls, but they, will clock in to do social media posts because I'm still, wanting them to post every single day. And social media still needs to keep on running. But it's been difficult with all the grant applications and loan applications to be doing social media too. So that just gets something off of my plate. So I have one girl that's solely doing social media, and she's probably going to start doing blogs soon. And then, because she's really well written, and then another employee kind of does all the back end financials. So she doesn't really need to, be with us if she's going to do that. And then another employee is doing all of our shipping. So she's kind of handling all shipments and things like that. So I'm still keeping them employed. Of course, their hours have dropped a lot, but I think that they've picked up that we're doing what we can. One of the things that we really want to start doing is kind of do like a virtual farmers market where I kind of like the idea that, because I really like the team that I have, like I said, and they're also, everybody's so different, but we all have this very common thread too. But I kind of want them to all have their own little live Facebook Live like personalities where they go on and Victoria, she's they're all very approachable and they all just have these very unique personalities and they do kind of their own live. And because I didn't want to just especially with like that PPP loan, it can be forgiven if you prove that 75% of it was spent on employees. But how do one of my challenges was how do I get these hours accumulated for them to do, because they used to have these hours for all their shows and markets that they did over the weekend, because we went from having anywhere from like 12 shows a weekend till now we're down to one. And last weekend was none because of Easter. But I didn't want them to have hours just to have hours. I didn't want to have them just, riding the clock or whatever. I was trying to think of something that they could do that would still generate income. And I think having, their own little personalities, it's no different than what they're doing at a show, except they're, putting it on Facebook, and hopefully we can get a schedule where we have like a live kind of, we're calling it a farmer's market, but it's really, kind of a shopping session for In the Weeds products. And I think it's been really good because I think after the initial kind of panic has set in with the COVID-19, that now that you're stuck at home, self-care is, important. Y'all, it's like the first time I've done my hair in April, but it's just, I was putting on eyeliner last Friday and my partner was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm not dead." So I feel like a lot of people are still trying to take care of themselves in different ways, whether it's like take a walk with the dog or just, give yourself a little TLC, because, in times like this, that little TLC goes a long way, just to wake up and don't be in your pajamas all day, change into different clothes, and start your day kind of try to develop a new routine. Because, we are, by nature, people that people need structure. So I think that that's really important too. So, and then if you're stuck at home, why not have like a candle that has like calming effects or, different things like that too. So I think that having the different Facebook sessions and things like that would be really beneficial, not only for the girls to be employed, but for our customers. And then the customers can ask, questions like they would at a farmer's market, which they don't really get from our website. They can always, message us if they need, if they have, questions or they need help or anything like that. But it kind of gives a more personal experience. And I think that that's, something that's needed right now.
Yes, I think we're seeing a lot of innovation with businesses, and I'm curious because based on what you were saying, you based a lot of your sales and exposure on events, right? Like going into like all weekend events and spending a lot of time out there with the customer, showing your product and kind of answering those questions, right?
Yeah.
So right now that you're switching to more like online engagement, is that something that you wanted to do but like weren't doing before? Is there something that you're going to keep doing? Are you going to like maybe tone down events even if we go back to normal? Like how are you looking at the exposure online? Are you like creating new customers? Are you seeing just comeback customers? Is your products like have your products changed? Like what you sell the most?
Um, no, actually, the numbers are pretty consistent with what would be sold at a farmer's market, I think, except for some of the smaller items. I feel like
Block the camera.
people don't want to have like the headache sticks or the lip balms. Just sometimes at the market they would just have like a little $5, $8 sale or something like that. Um, but it's funny you say that because just between the middle of March and all of April, we had 35 events canceled. And that's a lot. But at the same time, not that I'm calling myself old, but I am 37. I have been in business for 7 years. I personally have done over 550 shows. I could set up blindfolded, that whole display with the tent and the tables, um, by myself. Like I said, blindfolded. It would take me a long time, a little bit longer, but totally doable. Because it's like second nature, but it gets to the point where it does take like a physical toll on you. And I was kind of already looking for an out of the shows. I still wanted to do some bigger ones here and there, but I didn't want to um, make it to where we needed it. Because one of the things is that one variable that people forget is the weather. And it would just get to the point where we had 10 shows on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And because the weather is bad, it's like I went to work that week and everybody else still got paid, but I didn't because I'm the last one to get paid, let's be honest. So it was just kind of like, it was frustrating. Like, how is this like such, like, it's a variable that I still didn't have control of. So if you think about the COVID-19, I didn't have control over the back injury when I first started my business, which I left out before, but I had a really bad back injury that kind of shifted me to being in the weeds because my life was in the weeds. And then, not really having money or access to it was another challenge. And then, this, COVID-19, it'll pass. I just kind of feel like I've been through worse. I've gotten through worse. But trying to find where you have more control is important too, because like I said, that variable in the weather, it was just like, it would kill me all the time. And I have to say that the last 2 weekends were really kind of rainy. Not this Easter weekend, but it wouldn't have mattered because we didn't have any shows because it was Easter weekends. But the 2 weekends before that were rain and cold. Like it was just, so it kind of gave me a little bit of comfort. Like even if we hadn't been in COVID-19, we wouldn't have made that much money anyways. Or our goals, that we try to set every single time we have a show. So it has been something that it's kind of like, I always like the universe is telling me that I'm stubborn, and the universe had this happen so that I could pivot because this is what I essentially wanted anyways. And one of the things I said on one of my videos the other day was that sometimes the best things in life happen when you don't get what you want. I have, I've been known to be like a kind of a stubborn, hard-headed person, but it's kind of funny when the signs are right in your face. Sometimes you just have to take them. And so I'm kind of hoping, I would love to pivot more to an online business because the farmers markets are great and we have really great interaction with our customers, and we've done a good job of kind of building our brand so that people are recognizing us. But that's in San Antonio. We're ready to go bigger. So I would love to, get into manufacturing and things like that, but keep the shows and the farmers markets or whatever down to, a smaller amount, because you should see our marketing spreadsheet, like our market schedule. It's, every single employee, including myself, has like a color. So it's like this rainbow of colors. And then this last month, of course, canceled, all in black. But it's just a lot. And then the show fees, if you pay a show fee and it's so much, and then you have to pay the employee plus the cost of goods, some of these shows are coming down to basically a 40% mark off of what the product is, and that's about a wholesale order. So it's like you went through all this trouble making all these products, not knowing which ones would sell. I'd rather be filling, orders all day. So it's kind of like you already know what somebody wants instead of, waiting for it to sell. And that's important to us because we want the products to be as fresh as possible. And if something's sitting on the shelf for a really long time, then we're not really delivering the quality product that we say we are. So that's really important too, is just, we don't like products to be on the shelf, very long at all, even though they do have a shelf life of a year. But, we want the customer to get the best quality, the freshest. And like when people buy something that I just made the night before, I'll tell them like I just made that yesterday. So as fresh as possible is important too. So I'm hoping that we can eventually transition.
Yeah, I think that's smart. As you said, like you want to go outside of San Antonio, so I couldn't imagine Lika world tour. Like you can't be at every place at once or doing shows everywhere. So it's great that you're thinking that. And in the sense of like the money that you will spend on shows, have you seen that money is going back to you? In what form? Is it more like the online, like social media marketing? Like how are you, or have you been able to spend that money somewhere else, or how are you managing that?
So right now, like I was talking before, some of the show fees, the money was already sent out and they're either postponing it, so they're holding on to it. Some of them aren't refunding at all, and some of them are. So it just kind of depends. A lot of the farmers markets don't charge you until you're there. But it's funny, in 2017, we actually went to LA twice because we were featured. We had the Academy Award gifting suite, and then we were featured in the LA Fashion Magazine. So we went to LA twice, and then we were in Miami Swim Week and then New York Fashion Week. So 2017 was kind of like the USA tour, and I'm glad because we still have some of our connections with these people in those regions. So it was good that we established that at that time, but it's definitely not the same as having all these shows at once, but at the same time, my biggest expense is payroll. So my payroll is lower, but we're still not bringing in as much money as it's not equal by any means. So we are still taking a hit, but it's still there's still room for improvement. So I kind of feel like it's only been 30 days. Give me a couple months, and then I kind of feel that this could be something that is a really viable, way to receive income. And then I love that, our very eclectic group, my team, can kind of, I feel like there's somebody in our group that everybody can relate to, or they would have a favorite. It's kind of like I'm in the house with 5 dogs right now, and somebody will be like, oh, this one's my favorite. This one's my favorite. I kind of feel like there's something that, is relatable with each one of the girls that are on my team that, will bring in, once they kind of learn their personalities, I think that would help too. So it's just hard to tell right now because the shows were, people were used to seeing us there. Some of the shows like Jalotes, Wimberley, SoFlo, and of course the Corey, people were used to, a lot of times people would go to those events just to pick up products from us. So and I feel like they do kind of buy more when they're talking to somebody. They are a sales team. They are good at selling, and it is different than when you're online shopping because, if I couldn't convince you that you needed something else, then I'm not really, that good of a salesperson, I would say. But I think that it's a totally different experience when you have somebody to talk to about why you'd want a product as opposed to just shopping by yourself. So hopefully that'll transition from the shows to like a virtual, scenario. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk a lot about your team, how you like you have all girls, you're very engaged, but you also mentioned, I think before we started recording, that there's that like they're not all in the same city. So how are you managing that? Like not being able to see your employees. What has been that experience with you? How have you stay engaged and make sure like everyone's motivated to keep going? And even with the hardship of like cutting hours and everything, like how are you communicating to your team?
It's funny you say that. So I'm in San Marcos. I'm here at my girlfriend's house, and because I was either that or stay in the live work unit where basically my manufacturing facility is, and I already call that the box. So it was good for me to get out of the box. And then I have one employee in Kerrville, and then the other three are in San Antonio. But even if you know me, I'm not. I get it done. See, I'm trying to like watch my potty mouth, but I get it done. But in line with that, I'm not, I would say, the most professional person in that air of, professionalism, I guess you could say. There are some women that come into your room and you're just like, oh, wow. Like, and with my team, we have group chats, like with text messages, and where we're sending gifts to each other. We'll, crack a joke. And then we also have had a couple Zooms, with the team, just because I wanted to talk to them about the PPP loan. I was like, I'd already done so many applications that I didn't want to fill out another one because I didn't want to owe more money, but I was just trying to figure out how can I, I wanted to ask them, like, would y'all be down for, doing this? So I communicate with them really, really well. And the thing about being the boss with them is that I don't hold, I really, I would say very rarely pull the, like I'm the boss card. I don't like to do that. I really try to be equal with them. I'm kind of the one that is I almost want to say, like, if you're doing like a school project, like you have kind of like a person that naturally takes like the leadership role, or naturally kind of, I try to fill that role, but it's pretty much, it's not unless things are really bad that I'll pull the, well, that's how I want it. Like, too bad. So keeping that kind of personal relationship with them. And if there's an issue, like I've told them, if y'all just want to call me to talk, it doesn't even have to be anything about in the weeds, please do. Like, we're all in this together, and I know this is challenging, it's difficult. So I really try to keep that line of communication open. It's really important because I try to let them know that, I care about them, not just because I want them to work for me. I care about them because, I've gotten to know them. I know about their lives, and they're important to me. And one of my employees is actually the girlfriend of one of the people that I competed with in the Venture Challenge. So it's like, even though we were competing against each other, we're still friends, and enough to where, his girlfriend was like, hey, she wants to work for you. And I'm like, awesome. Like, I totally saw her application and she sounds great. And it was just kind of nice to have that also, that like that family connection going there too. So at In the Weeds, like I really try to make it, a family oriented business. It's just a coincidence. Well, it's not really a coincidence that we're all women, but it's more of a, I guess, a field that women would apply for. So we have had men work for us before, but currently it's us five, and we're all women, and well, most of us are Hispanic. So we all kind of get that background too. I have a Mexican mother, and she's tough. And I feel like I want to say 4 out of 5 of us have Mexican mothers too. So we all kind of get it sometimes, but just kind of keeping it, community close and things like that. So like I said, I try not to, I wouldn't be where I am without the team I have. So you can't pull that, I'm the boss and whatever, especially when you're a small business. It's like, you want people to not only work for you, but like working for you, and you want them to stay. And I always say, happy employees don't leave.
Yeah, I feel like from hearing you, it sounds like guys fit in like with the culture, like what you created. Like you started by yourself, but at the same time as you grow your team, you kind of surround yourself with people that that can work together and handle like whatever you throw at them. Like right now, like you're not doing shows now, they're going to do social media, bring in their personalities. You want them to kind of focus on their strengths, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that, like how you started to grow your team. Maybe if you like ever thought like you needed more and you couldn't, how do you handle that? Or how do you started to grow your company?
Oh, it's so funny. When I realized I needed help, I was working so much, like 100 hours a week, and it was tough. But then when I started looking for employees, so I have my work wife, Melissa. That's, basically it's sometimes I call her the person that I pay to tell me no. And she's amazing. She's kind of like she's the only one of us that has a child, so she's kind of taken on the mom role of us too, even with me. So that's probably why I call her the work wife. I'm like the dad. And she was the first one that came along, and then when we were hiring more people, it's almost like I was just excited that anybody wanted to work for me. And so don't get me wrong, I've totally hired the wrong people before. That's one of those things that you just have to like live and learn. And it's also something that when my other employees, it's one thing when I interview them, I feel like people are one person when they get interviewed, and me too. And then once you get to know them a little bit better, so it just makes me wonder what people think of me after that. But so they'll get trained by another employee, and I'm always asking that employee, give me the details. How were they? Because I kind of feel like if they're going to front to anybody, it's going to be me. And then they have to kind of come out of their shell and they feel more comfortable with another employee. So I always kind of get the details. I've also sent out like secret shoppers before. Some of my friends, where they'll hold a coffee and they'll have like a coffee and they'll have their phone and they'll be holding it like this, and they don't even know that they're talking to my employee and my employee is being like recorded. So I've done that too. But just to kind of like know when you want to see if your training goes well too. So I had to do things like that more so in the beginning, just because I wasn't asking the right questions. My application for In the Weeds. So if you see an application on Facebook or Indeed, it asks like 3 questions. And then after that, you get another application that's literally 50 questions. But people don't realize that application is a test. Because if you don't complete the application, if you couldn't even finish the application and answer these simple questions, then you kind of already weeded yourself out, and we need to be in the weeds, not out of the weeds. So, you have to ask these questions, and if they don't fill it out or they skip questions, I'm just kind of like, you made this easy for me. Like, you just kind of disqualified yourself. And Margot was actually the one that started giving me these questions to, kind of like a sample application. And then I started Googling, like, what are really good questions to ask when you're hiring somebody. And one of them is like, describe your 3 weaknesses. And it's funny what people will say. Driving with my left hand was one. And then, why do you think you're a great fit for In the Weeds? And I've heard the craziest, answers and things like that. But these applications, you also get to know people. And if you say, give a short answer, that's really important too. And you can kind of feel out their personality. And a lot of times, like, I want to say every single person that's on my sales team today, when I read their applications, I already loved them. And it was basically, they were coming in for an interview for me to kind of see any red flags. And if I saw any red flags, I was like, okay. But luckily, their applications, equaled their personality. And I really lucked out, honestly. That's why I was really stressed out when COVID-19 happened, because I don't want to lose any of my teammates at all. So, but yeah, it's just been kind of funny, because at one point, to answer your other question about how many, at one point I was like, the more salespeople I have, the better. Well, you have to pay taxes on every single employee. So when you're paying, when you have, me plus another 5, it's just, if that one person is only doing like 2 shows a month, there's no really point to have them on payroll, because you're adding these taxes to keep them on, but it's not really necessary. So kind of finding the right fit um, was challenging. But now that we have all these shows, it's funny because a few years ago, here I was like kind of scrounging around to find these shows to do. And it's funny because now a lot of times people are seeking out us. And just depending on when the event is, like usually the first or second weekend of the month, we're already booked. And I've already told the girls, don't ever ask for the first or second weekend off because it'll probably be a no. But it just kind of depends on the events and the events that we consistently have. We just got into the Kerrville Farmers Market, which was great, but we've only done like 3 weekends before all this started. So, but luckily one of my salespeople is from Kerrville, and it was kind of a great market for her to go to because she already had to drive there once a week anyways. So it's just kind of hiring the employees has always been kind of a trial and error. But I think I want to say in the last year, I've gotten really good at kind of seeing the signs of, when they start wavering a little bit, I kind of get this gut feeling. And, Melissa, my work wife, constantly is reminding me like, hire slow and fire fast. So I hate to do it because it's hard for me. And thankfully, I'm actually not the one that fires people. That's Melissa's job. So I leave that on her plate. It's tough for me because, I don't like to, but, you can't be a boss unless you know when it's time to let them go too.
Yeah, completely. I feel like also if they're having trouble is because they could be happier like somewhere else or develop some skills somewhere else, right? And
Well,
then
I would
I'm
say we
sorry.
have really good core values. Like I love the core values that we have, and one of them is communication. And ultimately, if they're not happy and in the weeds, they need to communicate that. Like I've told people, like I've had employees, try to throw something in my face. I'm like, I'm not a mind reader. Like I don't assume unless you tell me. So you got to communicate. Communication is one of it's a personal and professional pet peeve of mine. I hate
Yeah.
when people just don't deliver information.
Yeah. Um, and then, I mean, I want to make sure that anybody that it's on the call, if they want to ask something, they can jump in. I know you're muted, so you can unmute it or put it in the chat. But I wanted to see, like, if you can go, like, how has your routine changed from like what you were doing before on a daily basis, and then now how has your day changed? And also, if are there any practices that you have like brought into your day that you think are gonna stay after COVID? Like you feel like it was a good thing to change that, and you're gonna stick with it?
Um, Well, the first part of your question, my whole schedule has changed. I was kind of in a like mini long distance relationship already, and we are not used to being in each other's face every day. I'm very independent, so is my partner, so that was a challenge. And then, of course, I was going to the gym several times a week, not necessarily always for fitness, but just to keep my body moving because my back injury from back in the day is kind of rearing its head because I have to be in motion, and it makes it difficult to sleep. I want to also say that um, with the schedule, I was kind of loosely on a sleeping schedule, but I have to say that I have taken, when you're on the computer, I'm not used to being on the computer so many hours and then also doing like so much accounting and number crunching. And we found out that there was like a glitch in our QuickBooks. It's going to take some time to fix because one of our accounts wasn't syncing. So a lot of the applications I was having to manually add things, and it's kind of like it gets to the point where you're like my brain just felt like overloaded, and the next thing you know you just see me like and fall asleep. And I have to say I've taken probably more naps than I have in like the last 2 years. But then I'm like working at midnight. But that was always normal. I've always been kind of like a night owl. Um, I have I used to always take my dogs on walks like every day because that's their favorite part of the day, but the walks have become longer, and it kind of is just nice to get a little bit, of thinking time. I also there's like a porch here, kind of having that morning coffee outside just to kind of think. I used to be so bad about checking emails before I've even brushed my teeth. And I've just been telling people, like, kind of embrace this. I kind of love that, like, there's so many emails that come in a day. It'd be funny if I hadn't been on my computer for 6 hours, it was just flooded with emails. And with all this going on right now, it's kind of nice that nobody's up my butt about getting to an email if I didn't answer right away. I kind of have like a central circle of what I consider an important email, and other ones. But the thing is, this isn't going to happen. Like, granted, the circumstances of all of this aren't horrible, right? Nobody wants people to be dying and things like that. But at the same time, I kind of like embrace this, because if you were a busy person like I was, that never got a break, I've never in the history of In the Weeds taken a vacation that wasn't somewhat work related. I've been to LA and New Orleans, but I like the first part of the trip would be work, and then here I was lugging products around because they can't melt in the car, and they're in the hotel room. But that would be the second part of my vacation. Never taken a vacation while being a business owner, and not that I'm considering this a vacation, but I never got a time to just slow down and I never really don't. I think I almost wouldn't have had the time to pivot. We were already talking about getting out of the markets, but when was that going to happen? So it's just been kind of nice that life did slow down a little bit, and as much as it's an inconvenience, and I know people out there are struggling, to the people that can take a little bit of a breather, do it, just because it's so I feel like my mental health is better. I kind of feel that I've taken things into perspective. And it's also made me think of like long-term goals, because I don't want to put myself in a position where a variable like this or the weather, affects how much money I take home. Like, the weather shouldn't be affecting my paycheck. It's just, that's the way it is. And it's always like sunny in the summer when it's 100 degrees, and then you have like rainy season and cold season. And I would kind of like it to be where I didn't have peak seasons in the spring and the winter, where, we of course will always have like a Christmas time, but those other slower seasons are actually better than what they are. And I think that the way that we're trying to pivot could really do that.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people resonate with what you're saying. In the past sessions, we had people say like, hey, I really didn't want to start like that project until later, and this situation pushed me into doing it because I had to. Or because you're at home, you can take smaller breaks, like in between, like, okay, I work for half an hour, for 10 minutes, I go be with my kids or whatever. It's just a different way of working, but for some people it's kind of working out, right? Like it's better, they feel like they're doing more, or they are just taking a breather, like you said. So again, if anybody else wants to, oh, I think we have a question in the chat. I have a question about your manufacturing process. Okay. Karen, I don't know if you want to, let me see if I can.
Yes. Thank you. So you briefly touched about your, I guess you live near where you manufacture your products, something you called about the box. And I was just wondering, how has that changed? Did you have a certain volume that you produce weekly or monthly? And now are you thinking of maybe pulling back and making less, or how is that different? How did it start out and how is it changing?
So I live in a live work unit off of Zara Zamora. I proudly live in the hood and got the best tacos in town over there. But so the concept is that I live upstairs and the downstairs is offices. So downstairs we do have our main office and our inventory room where all of our shipping happens. But upstairs, I obviously have to use my kitchen. So I basically live in a manufacturing facility. More than about 75% of where I live is business. My room, like my bedroom, is actually smaller than what I had in college, but you do what you got to do.
Right.
And I haven't moved out of there because when I move, I want to buy a home. So I'm kind of trying to financially situate myself to do that. Luckily, because March and April are our fiesta time, like a doll face, our face scrub, and high five, our face cream, are two products that are really hard for me to produce by myself. And we had just made a batch right before this happened. So we're pretty stocked I know it's kind of going down a little bit, but the whole point of it is to sell it. So those products are the only two that I really, really need assistance, because when we make them, we make a large batch because of how fast they sell. But and then candles, of course, like candles can, the shelf life, I don't worry about those. They just can't be left out in the heat or anything like that. So it's funny that right before this happened, I was actually working with somebody at UTSA, and there's a manufacturing facility here in Texas, and I've already visited it, and they are amazing. They have the highest award that the Environmental Protection Agency can give, and they got this like over a decade ago. Two really cool guys. I don't want to disclose because everything's kind of non-disclosure agreements and paperwork and stuff like that. But we already started talking about them producing, because we want to expand to stores. They actually distribute some of the brands that you'll probably see on shelves. One of them, actually two of the brands they distribute sell at Target. So I would love an opportunity like that. And also, just when you think about how many thousands of products, how many tens of thousands of jars of just doll face I've made. Like my shoulder, I have like tennis elbow, golfer shoulder, and I don't play either one. It's just like this churning arm, you can only do so much more. And when you're pouring, you're constantly in these motions, and the repetitive motion is just making me feel older than I should for my age. And I know that at some point in time, like there needs to be an end date of when I'm hand producing them. I can still do all the formulating, and I'll still be the one designing the products. But if we're mass producing, that's something that I eventually am going to need to either build my own manufacturing facility or outsource. And it's been something we've been looking into. And one of the reasons why I was skeptical about doing that is because I wanted a company that had the same like eco-sustainable values that we do. And when I found this company, it's amazing because they have so many awards on their sustainability. Their packing peanuts are made out of cornstarch. You can literally put one in your mouth and chew it. It's like that eco-friendly, because he made me do that, and I totally did that. So if it wasn't for that facility having the standards that are above and beyond, I wouldn't even be considering it. But this was already in the works before this happened. So we were already kind of looking at slowing down the in our kitchen process, because if we're going to be producing at that amount, the live work unit wouldn't, I don't think would fly with the FDA, even though we disinfect everything. Like it's just, we needed a bigger boat.
Right. Well, that's really cool. I hope that works out. And it sounds like you said, things are just in order and in place for you to grow after all this is over. And so, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen for you. I think that's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I saw their facility on Valentine's Day, and I was telling my advisor, I was like, this is like the best Valentine's Day present ever, because that's when I tried like the little cornstarch thing. And then the owners of this manufacturing facility gave all the women like roses for Valentine's Day, and there's like 55, 60 employees, and I'm just like, dude, I like love this place. Like I want to be part of this team too, because the way that I am with my team, they are with theirs, even though they are making, millions and millions of dollars. It's just like they don't take away, they don't act like they're better than their employees. Like that's really important to me.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, of course.
That's great. And I don't know if anybody else has another question, but I have another question. We didn't really touch on the kind of eco-friendly approach that you have, that you started your business, that you continue to do with your business. One, how did you decide, like, well, is there like a purpose that, I mean, helping the environment, but like for you personally, why is this important to you? And also, have you been approached or had the opportunity to kind of grow faster without that component of why you started your business, and why you think it's important to keep it?
What do you mean, the component to grow faster?
Like a manufacturer that's not eco-friendly, or like other opportunities to grow without being or staying eco-friendly.
Well, that was always just important to me, but I also know that the FDA, sadly, actually monitors the facility that cosmetics are made in more than the actual cosmetic. Only 10% of all cosmetics on the shelf ever get tested. And it bothers me just because I'm a dog mom. I've always loved animals. I'm a big advocate for animals not being caged. You'll never see me at a zoo. You'll never see me spend a single dollar on SeaWorld ever, unless it was to get those animals out. And a lot of cosmetics like like I used to love Aveeno, but they test on animals, and that's just like something that really bothers me. And then one thing about like the COVID-19 is that you see all these environmental changes, like with the smoke in India, so they can see the Himalayas and the Himalayan mountains, and then the dolphins and what was it, France. So it's just kind of like one thing I also think that humans are not the best at is the kind of the way I was talking about with my team. I really try not to be like I'm not better than them because I'm the boss. I don't think that humans. I think humans too often act like they're better than the wildlife that makes up this earth. And I think that humans should definitely have more respect for our environment, our animals, and things like that. So it's always just been really, really important to me. And I really want to be a business that's big enough to where I am, helping out gorillas and sea turtles and, being an advocate for these animals that can't, fight for themselves. It's just always been really important to me. I used to want to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. And then I discovered that I'm kind of queasy. So that's not going to work out. But I've always had a really soft spot for animals. And, I have 3 dogs that are snoring really loud right now. But I just it's always been important to me. The manufacturing thing, I haven't come into another manufacturer that I said no to because ultimately I was originally thinking about building my own manufacturing facility. So right now we're kind of crunching numbers to see whether it makes more sense to go with this other company that's already amazing and already has everything set up, or do I invest money to build this on my own? So it's 2 different complete lifestyles, but the building on my own was originally what I had first envisioned, to create jobs and, kind of be very localized in San Antonio, which will still be San Antonio based, but we'll just be distributing out of, another local city. So it hasn't really been a challenge, but I do know, and the reason why it's been so important and been really strategic about it is because, like I said, I did discover from an FDA compliance officer that the FDA does regulate the buildings that these things are made in, with like the lights and OSHA and all these things, more than the actual product, which is sad because you would think that they would test something that is being absorbed into our bodies, but our FDA in that department's not really the best.
Yeah, I guess they care about. I mean,
Right.
Lenny, and going into the a manufacturer, it kind of like takes a little weight off your shoulders, being like they're already doing it, and it's just like you're just bringing in your team and your product into the facility. So it's good that you found a potentially great opportunity for you to grow your business. So I don't know if you have we're almost hitting the time, so we have 2 more minutes of any other insights that you want to share with small business owners that are going through this pandemic. I know, like maybe sharing where you find support or any other thing that you think it's good for them to know or to keep in mind as we stay at home and work on the business from another angle.
Well, Launch SA has definitely been very supportive. I am part of the Women's Business Center community. We did have our Zoom yesterday, and it is really humbling and also refreshing to have a peer group of other business owners, and we're all in different fields, but we oftentimes have the same problems. That's just how, being in business works. But then I'm also part of NABO, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. and they have, weekly Zooms and check-ins, and I get emails about kind of what grants are out there and loans are out there and things like that. I know that one grant that's out there is called Hello Alice, and that one is you're eligible for like $10,000, but once you fill it out, it takes like another month. And then, of course, Lift Fund and the whole Launch SA community has been really great too. But I'm trying to think of like what other online sources.
I mean, in terms of support, I mean, like for you, like where do you find support, strength? I don't know if you meditate, or is it your dogs, or like how can you? I mean, I feel like it's important for them to know. I mean, if you want to share more insights on resources, but I feel sometimes you feel like you're alone.
For me, I'm kind of a high-strung individual. I have anxiety. I try to use it to my benefit. Like I almost kind of run late on purpose because nothing wakes you up faster than running a little bit late. Like 2 minutes later, you're going to get there right on time, that cup of coffee. But sometimes I had to really kind of hone in and let myself cry about it, let myself be upset about it. But then I was also looking at myself in the mirror and I was just like, this is not who you are. You can't really lose touch of who you are as a person. I was like, I've been through worse than this. Like, when I had my back injury, I gained about 75 pounds in 8 months. And it was just, I was scaling the wall because I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to the bathroom without somebody helping me up. It was just like, I've been through some challenges before. So to me, this is just another challenge. And I kind of feel that it's kind of exhilarating if you think about it and if you let it be, where you don't let this take over you. You try your hardest to make your inner superhero come out, like your inner Wonder Woman. Like we can all sit here and like, complain and, for lack of better words, like bitch about it. But that's not, nothing, happened just from, sitting around and crying about it. And it was kind of funny to see myself unravel a little bit because I had to kind of see that, look at myself and be like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't who you are. And even my partner was just kind of like the first time she had ever seen me be like that. And I had to kind of like go through that process. So, you don't aim for perfection. You're just aiming for progress. There's no right or wrong answer as we all go through this. And you just need to remind yourself of that too. Give yourself some grace. It's okay. Like if you don't earn a new trade or whatever. I've discovered I'm a domestic goddess, but that's not where I'm going to be. But I just kind of feel that taking that time to kind of think, use it as power instead of fear. And then, you can make all the decisions you want. Nobody's telling you not to. So remind yourself of how much power you have, because, it's all, these are all decisions. These are all choices. You can just easily, as much as you can make the choice to sit there and cry about it, you can make the choice to be like, what am I going to do? Get in your little think tank and then, go for it. Sorry, my really large dog is drinking water. But, like I said, just use whatever frustration, fear you have to fuel your next step, because we're going to get through this. This is going to be over, at some point in time. We don't know when, but use it to the best, ability that you can.
Thank you, Lika. Thank you so much for your time. And I think that's great insight to end the session. I think it's maybe everyone feels alone. You're at home or looking at the same people every day, and it's kind of hard to think of the next step. But I feel finding support with, like you said, like the Women Business Center, the peer group, or listening to other small business owners, or reaching out to your mentors is a good way to go about it. And thinking of there's always there's going to be a next chapter. Is not always going to be like this.
Yeah,
right?
this isn't the end, that's the one thing that when I was in my cry sesh, just like a final note, when I was in my cry sesh, And this was about a month ago. This was the first weekend that some of my big shows got canceled, and I knew I was going to have to get into my line of credit because I wasn't going to make payroll. It was just kind of sitting there and thinking, I got comfort in knowing, like, when I had my back injury, I was all by myself. I was drugged up. I couldn't even function. It's like I didn't even know what was going on, and I felt very alone. And the thing is, with all this going on, as much as we're secluded, and I feel bad for, individuals that are isolated alone, but you're not alone. Everyone's going through this, and I really got comfort in saying, I'm not the only one going through this. A lot of people are going through it too, and remind yourself that, you're not alone, and we can all lean on each other and support each other. And by all means, if anybody wants to contact me, they're more than welcome to, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or even on LinkedIn too. So please feel free.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for extending that invitation to reach out to you. So I'm going to end the recording, but thank you so much. I think we have, it was just thank you. We enjoyed the interview. So thank you, Lika. I'll end the recording. And I just want to say that, that your session will be available for everyone else to kind of reach out. I'll put in your information with the link, like your Instagram and LinkedIn. That way they can reach out to you. And that's it. I mean, enjoy. We're midweek, so enjoy Wednesday, and it's a beautiful day. We've been getting great days, so that's good.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you.